So, we're going to be talking about this book today. This is an adult crime kind of book. It's really hard for me to explain, but it's about the mafia, the Italian mafia. It's about this family. Mainly follow one family in particular, but then there's all 5 families who meet and they all have like their own Don, which is kind of like the leader. Basically, this is full of crime. It's obviously scenes where people get killed or people get abused. So keep that in mind. There's definitely trigger warnings for abuse within this book and just general violence. So keep that in mind. Basically, I did not know what to expect going into this at all. With books like this, where the movie is such a classic, I worry about the book because like with Hannibal and like Red Dragon and stuff, the movie is incredible. Like, and the adaptations are so clever and well thought out, but the book was just average, in my opinion. Like, the writing was not the greatest, but the story was still good. That's the only thing. That's how I felt about those books. So I was worried that it was going to be the same with The Godfather, and I had not seen the movie, so I'm hoping to do that soon, but I didn't want to watch it before this and then, you know, compare it. I was actually really pleasantly surprised with this. I can't believe nobody talks about this. Like, I was reading this and I was like, how come no one talks about this? Like, on BookTube, in person, nothing. Like, I hear no one talk about this. Like, I've never seen a wrap-up where someone's mentioned this book. And if you're a lover of just like crime books or just powerful men and things like that, and you know, men who love power and or other people who bow down to a certain person, things like that, I think you definitely like this. So the writing was spot on. I would 10 out of 10 recommend the writing. It was really good. It was really thorough. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but I felt like I was reading this forever. I think it's because the font is like kind of small. Like, it's smaller than like most books, I think, in my opinion, and then there's like no spacing, like there's no like spacing or anything, so it did take me a while, but it's only about 430 pages, so it's not too bad. But I felt like the descriptions were just so well done, and I was reading it and I was like, how come no one talks about this? Are you kidding me? I was really impressed by the writing, and honestly, it's split up into like book number 1, book number 2, and it goes on from there. And I didn't know this, but it's a series, which I think I'm good with the first book right now, but maybe one day I'll pick up the others. It definitely leaves on a point where I think you would be satisfied with the story, so if you're worried to get into a new series or whatever, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, but again, it just felt like I was reading it for a long time, but it was really thorough, and I can't believe all like the development. Like, I felt like in 430 pages, there was a lot of like character development. There was a lot of just like, I can't even explain it. Like, the writing was just so fantastic. And talking about the characters, I don't want to say, well, I mean, okay, we have the Don, who is the head of the, how do you pronounce this? The I'm gonna put it on here because I'm not gonna be able to say this. It's probably the easiest pronunciation. I'm just screwing up, but this family was like the main family of the book. So the Don, I loved hearing about him. I thought he was so interesting, just how everyone had so much respect for him. Like, it's not even that they were terrified of him, they just respected him so much. And then there were some people who were like fearful of him, but when he did something for you, he in return, if he ever needed something, he would cash it in, which it reminds me a lot of, this is weird, a show that I watch. It's a soap opera. Like, your moms probably watch it. Like, like if you're a mom, you watch it. No, I'm kidding. But or your grandparents watch it, etc. Maybe you watch it. But The Young and the Restless, it reminded me a lot of like Victor Newman and his power, and I don't know, it just really reminded me of that, and how you really, like, he doesn't directly threaten you all the time, but it's like sometimes it's just like underlying, or like you gotta read between the lines. Like, Victor actually does openly threaten sometimes, but the Don never really openly threatened anybody. Sometimes it was really implied though, just saying. But he also reminded me of like Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time, like the version that they did of him in that show, because he was making deals, and he was, you know, if you did something for me, like if I did something for you, you'd have to do something for me in return, is kind of what that was all about. But yeah, the characters I love. The Don was really interesting, but my favorites throughout the book were Sonny. I think he was absolutely just so interesting to me. He was one of the ones that had like a really big temper. That's kind of how he's described throughout the book, is that he's very temperamental. He's the Don's, one of the Don's sons, and I just love Sonny. Like, that's not his actual, like they all have like their Italian names and then their shortened names. I thought Michael was really interesting as well. He was kind of like the what, like, how do I explain it? Michael was just really interesting. Like, I didn't think of him much at the beginning. Like, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like he's fine. Like I preferred Sunny and like the Don and things like that, but I don't know, Michael kind of grew on me, definitely say that. So there's some important elements of this book, and I won't get into spoilers right now, but there is some deaths, and I'm not gonna say anything else, but yeah, there is some people who die that I didn't really care about, so yeah. But there was some other characters. There was Johnny Fontaine. He was like a singer who lost his voice, so he went to the Don for help, and he was kind of like, you know, I can't sing, man, blah blah blah. Like, okay, so we kind of get his story as well. The only thing that I didn't like, which I can't even excuse how they talk about women in this book. Like, it's not like every woman, but like the guys who are like a part of the mafia, a lot of them are like hiring like prostitutes, and they call them their whores, and one of the characters abuses his wife a lot, and that was really hard to read, so keep that in mind. It's a lot at times. Yeah, so the characters were really good. They were all fleshed out. Like, they all had their own stories, and there's just so much to say about each character. But Sonny was my favorite. I also liked Solozo as a villain, if you know what I mean. I was like, I like you, but like as a villain, you know. There were some scenes I really love, which I'll talk about in the spoilers. But if you haven't read The Godfather, I'd highly recommend it. I think the writing is spot on. I think the characters are great. It has the right amount of crime. Again, if you're sensitive to things like abuse and reading about that, please be aware that it's in here. It was very, like, the first page, someone's beating the shit out of someone else. So just be aware of that. The mafia works was really interesting, and I've never read a book like this, and you know, a lot of the characters were Sicilian and Italian, and it was really interesting to read. I really do want to see the movie, and this was just overall like I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm giving this about a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it was really good, and I would recommend it to people. So let's get into spoilers. So we can be here all day talking about stuff, but I think I'm going to just look at my tabs. I didn't tab too much, but I tabbed like a fair bit of stuff. So basically I tabbed Sonny saying,
Solozo is dead meat. I don't care what it costs. I don't care if we have to fight all the 5 families in New York. The Tattagali family is going to be wiped out. I don't care if we all go down together. So
Solozo, that scene was so cool. Like, I don't know why that was so interesting to me, but that scene when they were like, he went to the bathroom and he took the gun behind the toilet and they hid it there, and he went and he shot Solozo and that cop at the dinner table who were like totally like assholes and just did a lot of bad shit. So he shot them, and then he had to go away because like he was accused, so he kind of had to leave.
Here it says, after the murder of Solozo and Captain McCluskey, the police captain and lieutenants in every station house in New York City sent out the word. There would be no more gambling, no more prostitution, no more deals of any kind until the murder of Captain McCluskey was found. Okay, so that says at the end, the 5 Families War of 1946 has begun, which I didn't talk about this in the non-spoilers section, but I found it really interesting how this tied into like World War I and World War II. They also mentioned the Black Hand, which was a terrorist organization in, I forget if it was World War I or World War II. I'm a little bit fuzzy on my history, but I remember learning about them in history class, so I found that really interesting that they like talked about them. And then I just have like descriptions of the Don, like are they just 12, short, dark, slender, living in the strange, Moorish-looking village of Corleone, Sicily. He had been born Vito Andolini, and when strange men came to kill the son of the man they had murdered, his mother sent the young boy to America to stay with friends.
Which, it's funny because I'm Italian too, and I can't like, I don't know, I'm more nervous on camera to pronounce things, but I also have, what followed this was sickening. Sonny began beating the cowering Corlo with his fist, cursing him. Okay, so this was interesting. So Connie is the Don's daughter, and And this guy, Carlo, was her husband. And he's the one who was beating her throughout the book, which was horrifying to read, by the way. But Sonny, the older brother, who has like a temper and he's pretty temperamental, he literally when Connie's injured, he gets really pissed. So this was like
Sonny beating him, cursing in a thick, rage-choked voice. Carlo, despite his tremendous physique, offered no resistance, gave no cry for mercy or protest.
So basically, he was beating the shit out of him, and yeah. But I really liked Sonny. Like, I know he did a lot of bad things. Like, everyone in this book does bad things, so don't even like hate on me for liking Sonny. But the thing with Sonny was that he really cared about his family, and even with this whole book, like, they cared about their immediate family. And they had so much respect for the Don, which was really interesting. But Sonny was just, you can tell he was upset because it was his sister. And later in the book, he goes to go see his sister and to try to kill Carlo, probably. And he gets killed along the way. And then it's a discussion of if Carlo knew that Connie called him and if Carlo sent people to kill him. And stuff like that. Sonny dies from that attack that Carlo could have caused. So someone else killed Carlo. And not Sonny's wife, but the wife of the person who killed Carlo. I think it was Michael who killed Carlo. I forget. But, like, they're trying to explain to her that, like, they're condoning it because, I don't think it's right, but they're condoning it because Carlo basically killed Sonny, or it's assumed that he did, and that he was beating Connie, and like she was getting really badly injured too, so it was just horrifying to read that. So that's why I had so much respect for Sonny, because he was going to help his sister before he died, and he was mad. Yeah, he probably would have killed him if he got there, but I don't know, I just had a lot of respect for Sonny, so his death made me really sad. Yeah, I was really upset by Sonny's death. So Michael's like the innocent one throughout the book. Like, he's the one that no one really thinks much of in the Don family. Like, that's why they send him to kill Salozzo and the captain. They send him because he's the less intimidating out of the family. Like, they said Sonny probably would have done a better job, but they would have been more threatened by Sonny than of Michael. So they sent Michael to do it. So that was interesting, especially because Michael later becomes the Don. And we need to talk about how the Don got shot, because I was like speechless. Like, I didn't expect this to happen, and it happened pretty early if I remember. So I was like, what the hell? The Don got shot. And you know, through the book, throughout the edit, like the second half, he's making his recovery, but he sells their oil business. The lawyer, Tom Hagen, who was also his like right-hand man, just gets appointed to being his lawyer. Michael takes over, and Tom is now Michael's lawyer. And yeah, Sonny's gone. It was really interesting, and this is what I really ended up liking about Michael near the end, is he said his children, he was saying basically he would follow his father, he would care for his children, his family, his world, but his children would grow up in a different world. They would be doctors, artists, scientists, governors, presidents, anything at all. So I loved that, like that he didn't want them to get involved in this world of crime and drugs and money and power and wealth and all this stuff that he was involved in and that he grew up in. And he wanted his kids to have kind of like a normal family, and he would follow his father's example in a way, but he didn't want to raise them the way he was raised exactly. Then basically we have Michael and his wife Kay, who are now married and stuff. Obviously I said wife, but sorry, that was a blanket. So Connie's pissed when she hears that, you know, her husband died because of Michael. And I think he was really seeking out vengeance for Sonny. And I don't know, Carlo bothered me so much, I didn't really care. But it was just, Connie gets so pissed off, which it was not surprising, but I was a little bit, I don't know, like he treated her so horribly. And I get they were married, but the way that he treated her was just horrible. And so she's yelling, and then Kay defends him and says, you know, all this stuff like, how do you know that the death of your brother wasn't because of Carlo, or he was going to see Carlo, and how did you know that Carlo didn't know you were talking on the phone and he didn't plan this or whatever. So that was really interesting. Let me know down below if you guys think Carlo did kill Sonny, or was Carlo's people? Let me know what you think.
Yeah, so it even says here, what if Carlo had been paid to help get Sonny killed? Then what?
The Don, a great man, couldn't bring himself to do what he had to do, avenge his son's death by killing his daughter's husband. What if that finally was too much for him, and he made Michael his successor, knowing that Michael would take that load off his shoulders? Would that take guilt? Would that take the guilt? Yeah.
So, and at the end, it just says,
Then with a profound and deeply willed desire to believe, to be heard, and she had done every day since the murder of Carlo Rizzi, she said the necessary prayers for the soul of Michael Corleone.
okay, so that ends with basically Michael's wife, Kay, saying she was always disturbed that he wouldn't tell her stuff. He's not going to tell her about all the deaths he has to go, like that, all the people he's killed, or all the people who've attacked his family. Like, they read about it in the newspapers, like people are dying and stuff, but she tries to ask him questions and he says, don't ask me about business, don't do that. He tries to keep the life separated from her, which I guess if she did know, she would be in danger as well. So I kind of get why, but at the same time, I'm like, it's sad that they can't have a normal marriage. And it was sad that he couldn't confide in her about things, but near the end she says, when she found out about Carlo's death and that her husband killed him, first for a bit, again, she was defending him and stuff, but I think she came to the conclusion at the end that, like, what I really got from that last line was she was worried every day, and for a bit she actually leaves him after discovering what happened with Carlo. And I think it was, yeah, so she leaves him after finding out what happened with Carlo, and for a little bit, and then they find their way back to each other. And she says, then with a profound and deeply willed desire to believe, to be heard, as she had done every day since the murder of Carlo, she had the necessary prayers for the soul of Michael. So yes, that was the end of The Godfather by Maria Puzo.